I was planning an incredible 30th birthday celebration for my wife Amanda. For months, I secretly saved up for a luxury weekend getaway in the mountains. Our 5-year marriage had been everything I dreamed of, at least. That is what I thought. After the party, something changed. Amanda started acting distant, working late, and guarding her phone like it contained state secrets. Then I found those text messages between her and my cousin Jack. Messages that destroyed everything I believed about my marriage and family. Before I tell you how my perfect marriage fell apart, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you will want to hear how I turned this family disaster into the best decision of my life. I met Amanda during our sophomore year of college. I was studying business while she pursued her passion for art history. Our first encounter happened at the campus coffee shop where I accidentally spilled my latte on her art history textbook. Mortified, I offered to buy her a new one, but she just laughed it off. That laugh captivated me immediately. We exchanged numbers, and I found myself making excuses to text her about assignments and study groups. We started dating 3 months later, and everything just clicked. Amanda was creative, passionate about art, and had this contagious enthusiasm for life that balanced out my more practical nature. We shared dreams of building a life in Seattle, her working in an art gallery, and me climbing the corporate ladder. After graduation, those dreams started taking shape. I proposed to Amanda at the Seattle Art Museum in front of her favorite painting. The wedding was modest but perfect. My parents adored her from the beginning, often telling me I had found a gem. They welcomed her into the family like the daughter they never had. We settled into a comfortable routine in our small but cozy apartment in Queen Anne. I landed a job at Horizon Marketing, working diligently toward a promotion that would help us afford a house someday. Amanda secured a position at the Westlake Gallery where she helped curate local artist exhibitions. Our weekends were filled with hiking trails around Mount Rainier, exploring small towns along the coast and hosting dinner parties for our close friends. My parents hosted Sunday dinners every 2 weeks, a tradition Amanda and I rarely missed. It was during one of these dinners about 8 months ago that my cousin Jack reappeared in my life. Jack had just moved back to Seattle after finalizing his divorce in Chicago. He had always been the golden child in the family, the successful real estate agent, with the charming smile and perfect life. At least until his wife left him for her personal trainer. My parents immediately took Jack under their wing, inviting him to every family gathering. I never saw it as an issue. Jack and I had been close as children before drifting apart in our teens. Having him back felt like reconnecting with a lost part of my family. Amanda and Jack seemed to get along well, bonding over their shared interest in architecture and design. I remember feeling grateful that my wife made such an effort with my family. How incredibly naive I was. The past year had brought some tension into our marriage. We had been trying for a baby without success. Each negative pregnancy test dimmed Amanda's smile a little more. I suggested we see a fertility specialist, but she kept putting it off, saying it would happen naturally when the time was right. In retrospect, I wonder if she was already having doubts about our future together. Despite this underlying stress, I believed we were happy. We still had date nights every Friday. We still made love regularly. We still talked about our future home and the children we would have. I was blindsided by what happened next, completely unaware of the betrayal brewing right under my nose. Now, when I look back at those final months of blissful ignorance, I can see the small changes I missed. How Amanda started working later at the gallery. How she began dressing differently, wearing more makeup. How her phone was suddenly always face down or never far from her reach. But in my mind, we were still Peter and Amanda the couple. Everyone envied for their rock-solid relationship. I spent weeks planning Amanda's 30th birthday, determined to make it special. I wanted to remind her of how much she was loved, hoping it might lift her spirits after all the disappointment we had faced trying to start a family. The day of Amanda's birthday arrived, and everything was in place. I had decorated our apartment with her favorite flowers, white lilies and blue hydrangeas. A custom cake from her favorite bakery waited in the refrigerator, along with champagne chilling for the morning toast. I woke her with breakfast in bed, presenting her with her first gift, a pair of sapphire earrings that matched her eyes. Her smile seemed genuine as she kissed me and thanked me for remembering every detail. I had taken the day off work to spend it entirely with her, starting with a couple's massage at her favorite spa, followed by lunch at the waterfront restaurant where we had celebrated our first anniversary. That evening, I had arranged for friends and family to gather at our apartment for a surprise party. When we returned home and she opened the door to 20 people, shouting surprise, her face lit up in a way I had not seen in months. At least that is what I wanted to believe. The party was exactly as I had envisioned. Our living room transformed with twinkling lights and balloons. A table filled with appetizers from her favorite caterer. A slideshow I had created playing on the television showing photos of Amanda throughout the years. Everyone seemed to be having a wonderful time, especially Amanda, who floated around the room in the new dress I had bought her, accepting congratulations and gifts. What I did not notice then, but painfully recall now, was how often she and Jack disappeared from the main group. At one point, I found them in the kitchen standing closer than necessary, their conversation stopping abruptly when I entered. Jack clapped me on the shoulder saying he was just getting Amanda to reveal where we had gotten the amazing stuffed mushrooms. I believed him without question. After the last guest left, Amanda hugged me tightly, thanking me for the perfect day. The next morning I presented her with the main gift, an envelope containing reservations for a luxury weekend at Salish Lodge overlooking Snoqualmie Falls. I had been saving for 6 months to afford this getaway. Instead of excitement, Amanda's face fell. She said she was not feeling well, suggested we postpone the trip for another weekend. Disappointed but understanding, I agreed. I wanted the weekend to be perfect, and if she was not feeling well, we could always go another time. The week following her birthday, Amanda started working later than usual at the gallery. Special event preparations, she explained. When she was home, she was constantly on her phone, turning the screen away whenever I came near. She started taking calls in another room, her voice hushed. 2 weeks after the birthday party, I had to leave for a 3-day marketing conference in Portland. The night before I left, Amanda was distant, claiming she was stressed about a new exhibition. I kissed her goodbye the next morning, telling her I would miss her. She barely looked up from her coffee. The conference ended early on the 3rd day, and I decided to surprise Amanda by coming home that evening instead of the following morning as planned. I stopped to pick up takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant, imagining a quiet night reconnecting. When I arrived home, the apartment was empty. I called Amanda, but she did not answer. Figuring she was still at work, I settled in to wait, opening my laptop to check emails. That is when I noticed Amanda had left her tablet on the coffee table, something she never did. A notification sound pinged, and without thinking, I glanced at the screen. A message from Jack appeared. Last night was amazing. Cannot wait to have you all to myself this weekend while Peter is gone. My hands trembling, I picked up the tablet. Amanda had never logged out of her messages. I scrolled through weeks of exchanges between her and Jack, explicit texts describing their encounters, plans they had made, things they had done in our bed while I was working late. The affair had been going on for 3 months, starting shortly after Jack returned to Seattle. I sat there for hours, reading every message, each word cutting deeper than the last. They mocked me, calling me boring and predictable. Jack boasted about how easy it had been to seduce Amanda, how she had been craving excitement that I could never provide. Amanda complained about our marriage, our sex life, our future plans. She told Jack she had stopped trying to get pregnant because she was not sure I was the man she wanted to have children with. When I heard Amanda's key in the door around 11 that night, I was sitting in the dark living room, her tablet open on the coffee table in front of me. She switched on the light, startled to see me there. "Peter, you are home early," she said, her voice high and nervous. I could smell unfamiliar cologne on her. "Where were you, Amanda?" I asked, my voice unnaturally calm. "Working late at the gallery. We have that new exhibition, remember?" She set down her purse, avoiding my eyes. "That is interesting because I called the gallery at 8. They said you left at 5 as usual." Her face pallid. Well, I went for drinks with some colleagues after." I picked up the tablet and turned it toward her. "And was Jack one of those colleagues?" The color drained completely from her face. She started to speak, stopped, then tried again. "Peter, I can explain. It is not what you think, really. Because I think you have been sleeping with my cousin for months. I think you have been lying to my face while laughing behind my back. I think you and Jack have been making a fool of me in my own home, in my own bed." Tears filled her eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no pain, just a cold, detached anger. "It just happened," she whispered. "I did not mean for it to start. Things like this do not just happen, Amanda. You made choices, countless choices every single day to betray me. She broke down then, confessing everything between sobs. How Jack had flirted with her at family dinners. How he had started texting her afterward. How one evening when I was working late, he had stopped by with a bottle of wine to discuss an art piece he wanted to buy. One thing led to another, and before she knew it, they were having an affair. He makes me feel alive, Peter, she said, the words cutting into me like glass. We have chemistry, a connection I have never felt before, not even with you. I called Jack immediately, my hands shaking with rage. He answered on the second ring, his voice smug when he realized it was me. Well, well, I guess the cat is out of the bag, he said, not even attempting to deny it. Why, I demanded. I am your family. What kind of person does this? Jack laughed, a cold sound that chilled me. You want to know why? Remember when we were kids, and you told Uncle Robert about finding me smoking behind the garage? I got grounded for a month, missed the camping trip I had been looking forward to all year. I swore someday I would pay you back. Taking Amanda was just too easy. She was bored, Peter. Bored with your predictable, safe little life. I hung up, unable to process the malice in his words. My cousin had deliberately pursued my wife, not out of love or even lust, but as revenge for a childhood incident I barely remembered. And Amanda had fallen for it, throwing away 5 years of marriage for the excitement Jack offered. That night I packed a bag and checked into a hotel downtown. I needed space to think, to decide what to do next. I barely slept, replaying every moment of the past months in my mind, seeing all the signs I had missed, all the times they had probably been laughing at my obliviousness. The next morning I was jolted awake by knocking at my hotel room door. When I opened it, my parents stood there, their faces grim. We need to talk, Peter, my father said, pushing past me into the room. My mother followed, perching on the edge of the bed. How did you know where to find me? I asked. Amanda called us, my mother replied. She told us what happened. She is devastated, Peter. I laughed bitterly. Devastated? She got caught, you mean? My father sighed heavily. Son, marriages go through rough patches. People make mistakes. The important thing now is how you handle this. Handle this. My wife has been sleeping with my cousin for months behind my back. How exactly would you suggest I handle this? My parents exchanged a look that sent a chill through me. My mother reached for my hand. Peter, we think you need to consider forgiveness. For the sake of the family. I pulled my hand away, staring at them in disbelief. Forgiveness. You cannot be serious. Jack is family, my father said firmly. And Amanda is your wife. Divorces are messy, expensive, and they tear families apart. We think you and Amanda should try counseling. Work through this. And Jack, well, he made a mistake too. Slowly the truth dawned on me. You knew, I said, my voice barely audible. You knew about the affair. Neither of them would meet my eyes, and that was answer enough. How long? I demanded. How long have you known my wife and cousin were betraying me? We suspected something a few weeks ago, my mother admitted. We saw them together at a restaurant when they thought no one was looking. We spoke to them about it. They promised it would end. But obviously it did not end, I said. And you did not think to tell me? We were hoping they would come to their senses, my father said. We did not want to hurt you unnecessarily if they ended it on their own. I felt like I was in some bizarre alternate reality. My own parents had discovered my wife's infidelity and chosen to protect her and Jack instead of telling me the truth. So what now? I asked. You want me to pretend nothing happened? Welcome Jack to Sunday dinner and act like he did not betray me in the worst possible way. Sleep next to Amanda knowing she has been laughing at me with my cousin. What we want, my father said, his voice hardening, is for you to be the bigger person. Family comes first, Peter. Always. Your mother and I have worked hard to build this family to maintain our reputation in the community. We will not have it all torn apart because of one indiscretion. One indiscretion. They have been sleeping together for 3 months. My mother stood straightening her jacket. Peter, I know you are hurt right now, but you need to think about more than just your feelings. Think about the family. Think about your future. Amanda made a mistake, but she loves you. And Jack, well, he has always been impulsive. Listen to me carefully, my father added, his tone shifting to one I recognized from childhood scoldings. If you pursue this divorce, if you make a public spectacle of this situation, there will be consequences. Your mother and I have always supported you financially. the down payment for your apartment, the loan for your car. If you insist on tearing this family apart, that support ends. I stared at them. These people I had trusted and respected my entire life. Are you actually threatening to cut me off if I do not forgive my wife and cousin for betraying me? We are asking you to put family first, my mother said softly, to be mature about this. They left shortly after leaving me alone, with the devastating knowledge that every person I had trusted most in the world had betrayed me. My wife, my cousin, my parents. I had never felt so utterly alone. That night in the hotel room was the darkest of my life. I sat on the edge of the bed for hours, staring at nothing, my mind cycling through the betrayals. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my family, had been a lie. I felt hollowed out, empty, except for the dull throb of pain that seemed to radiate from my chest. Around midnight, desperate for someone to talk to who was not involved in this nightmare, I called my old college friend Michael. We had been close during school but drifted apart as adult responsibilities took over. Still, he answered on the third ring. "Peter, man, it is late. Everything okay?" The genuine concern in his voice broke something in me, and I found myself telling him everything. The affair, my parents' betrayal, the ultimatum. He listened without interrupting, then said the words I needed to hear. "That is some serious bullshit, Pete. None of this is your fault, and you do not owe any of them forgiveness. What do you want to do?" It was such a simple question, but no one had bothered to ask me that yet. What did I want? "I want out," I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. Out of my marriage, out from under my parents' control. I just do not know how. Michael, who worked for a tech company in Portland, became my lifeline over the next few days. He connected me with a shark of a divorce attorney who agreed to meet me secretly. The attorney, Diane Reeves, laid out my options with brutal clarity. "Oregon is a no-fault state, so technically you do not need evidence of the affair for a divorce," she explained. "But given what you have told me about your shared finances and your parents' involvement, documenting the infidelity could be useful. It gives you leverage." She advised me to play along temporarily to gather evidence while protecting myself financially. It was not the immediate clean break I wanted, but I recognized the wisdom in her approach. This was no longer about hurt feelings, this was about survival. The next day I returned home and told Amanda I wanted to try to work things out. The relief on her face was palpable, and she threw her arms around me, thanking me repeatedly for giving her another chance. I forced myself to hug her back, though her touch now made my skin crawl. "I have one condition," I said. "Complete honesty from now on. No more secrets." She agreed, eagerly promising to tell me everything to make it up to me to be the wife I deserved. I smiled and said we would take it day by day. That night I slept on the couch, claiming I still needed time. In reality, I could not bear to lie beside her. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the role of forgiven husband perfectly. I attended a family dinner where Jack offered a rehearsed apology, looking appropriately contrite as my parents nodded approvingly. I smiled and said we all made mistakes, watching their shoulders relax, as they believed the family crisis had been averted. All the while, I was methodically building my exit strategy. I secretly recorded conversations where both Amanda and Jack referenced the affair, saving the recordings securely in an email account only I knew about. I photographed the text messages on Amanda's tablet before she thought to delete them. I gathered financial records, discovering in the process that Amanda had been siphoning money from our joint account into a private one for months. I documented everything. During this time, Michael mentioned his company was expanding and looking for someone with my marketing background. The position would be based in Portland, 3 hours from Seattle, and the toxic web of relationships I was trapped in. I updated my resume and had a video interview while Amanda was at work. They offered me the job the next day with a salary that exceeded what I was making at Horizon. I secured an apartment in Portland, signing the lease electronically, and paying the deposit from a new bank account I had opened in just my name. I began quietly moving important documents and irreplaceable personal items to a storage unit. I consulted with Diane regularly, making sure every step I took was legally sound. The most difficult part was maintaining the facade, smiling at Sunday dinners while my father pontificated about family loyalty, nodding sympathetically when my mother talked about how proud she was of me for being mature about the situation, pretending not to notice the lingering looks between Amanda and Jack, who had toned down but not ended their affair despite their promises. 3 weeks into my charade, I received final confirmation of my job offer and apartment lease. Everything was in place for my escape. I decided the time had come for the final act in this family drama. I suggested hosting the next Sunday dinner at our apartment, claiming I wanted to show everyone how well Amanda and I were doing. My parents were delighted, and Amanda seemed touched by the gesture. I spent the week preparing not just the meal, but my revelation. Sunday arrived, and with it my parents, Jack, and two other couples from my father's side of the family who had been invited without my knowledge. Perfect, an even bigger audience. The evening started pleasantly enough with cocktails and conversation. I played the gracious host, making sure everyone's glass stayed full. As dinner was winding down, my father raised his glass. I would like to propose a toast to Peter and Amanda for showing us all what true commitment looks like. And to family, which withstands all challenges. Everyone raised their glasses, murmuring in agreement. I raised mine too, then set it down carefully. I would like to say something as well, I said, my voice steady. About family and commitment. The table fell silent, all eyes turning to me expectantly. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that my wife has been having an affair with my cousin Jack for the past 3 months. I paused, watching shock register on the faces of the extended family members who had not been privy to this information. When I found out, my parents came to me not with support, but with a demand that I forgive both Amanda and Jack for the sake of keeping up family appearances. They threatened to cut me off financially if I pursued a divorce. My father half rose from his chair. Peter, this is not the time or place. Actually, it is exactly the time and place, I replied calmly. Since family is so important to you, I thought everyone should know the truth. I proceeded to play selected recordings from my phone, Amanda's voice filling the dining room as she described their affair in her own words. Jack's voice bragging about how he had seduced her as revenge for a childhood slight. My parents' voices as they pressured me to sweep everything under the rug. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother had gone pale, my father red with anger. Amanda was crying quietly, while Jack stared stonily at his plate. I have accepted a job in Portland, I announced into the silence. I start next Monday. The divorce papers have been filed, Amanda. You will be hearing from my attorney tomorrow. As for the rest of you, I want nothing more to do with a family that values appearances over honesty, that would rather perpetuate lies than face difficult truths. I stood looking each of them in the eye one last time. I deserve better than this. From all of you. With that, I walked out of the apartment, leaving behind the remnants of a family dinner and a life built on lies. My car was already packed with the essentials. I drove straight to Portland that night, checking into a hotel near my new apartment. For the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully free from the weight of pretense. The aftermath was exactly as messy as my parents had feared. Amanda fought the divorce initially until my attorney presented the evidence of her financial deception, along with the affair. Jack attempted to contact me several times, his messages oscillating between anger and pathetic attempts at justification. My parents threatened to contest the divorce, to cut me out of the will, to tell everyone I was mentally unstable. None of it touched me. I had already lost everything. I thought I valued only to discover my own strength in the process. 6 months later, my life in Portland had taken shape. My new job challenged me in ways my previous one never had, with colleagues who respected my ideas, and a boss who mentored rather than micromanaged. My apartment, though small, was mine alone, decorated exactly as I liked without compromising with anyone else's taste. Through a work event, I met Lauren, a graphic designer whose straightforward nature and genuine laugh reminded me that not all connections were built on deception. We started slowly. Friends first, both cautious, for different reasons. She had her own past hurts, her own reasons to be wary of rushing into relationships. As for the others, I heard through mutual friends that Amanda and Jack's relationship imploded within weeks of my departure. Without the thrill of secrecy and betrayal, they discovered they had little in common. Amanda eventually moved back to her hometown in California. Jack remained in Seattle, though his welcome and family gatherings had cooled considerably after the truth came to light. My parents made several attempts to reconcile, first with angry demands that I apologize for embarrassing the family, then with tearful pleas about forgiveness being a virtue. I maintained minimal contact, engaging only through my attorney when necessary for the divorce proceedings. The most surprising support came from my extended family. My father's sister called to tell me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. My grandmother, who had sat silently through my revelation at that final dinner, sent a card to my new address with a simple message: truth before comfort, always. Over time, the pain dulled from a sharp stab to a distant ache. I came to recognize that while the betrayal had broken, my heart staying in that web of lies would have broken my spirit. In walking away, I had saved the most important relationship, the one with myself. 1 year after that devastating discovery, I sat across from Lauren at a riverside restaurant in Portland, watching the sunset paint the water gold. We had been dating officially for 4 months, taking things slowly, building a foundation of honesty that felt revolutionary after my marriage. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, noticing my contemplative mood. "How sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best version of your life," I replied. The previous week I had received a promotion at work, the result of a successful marketing campaign I had developed that increased client engagement by 40%. My apartment now felt like a true home, filled with books. I actually read music I genuinely enjoyed, and art that spoke to me, rather than match the furniture. My relationship with my parents had evolved into a careful détente. After months of silence, I had allowed a phone call on my birthday. The conversation was stilted, but civil. They expressed regret for how they had handled the situation, though stopped short of a true apology. I accepted this for what it was, a small step toward a new kind of relationship built on my terms, not theirs. Jack had moved to Chicago, returning to his life there after failing to rebuild his reputation in Seattle. Amanda had reached out once, an email that alternated between apology and justification. I read it, acknowledged it, and moved on without response. Some chapters were better left closed. What surprised me most about this new life was not just that I had survived the betrayal, but that I had flourished in its aftermath. Forced to rebuild from scratch, I had created something stronger and truer than what I had before. The pain had been necessary, burning away illusions and leaving clarity in its wake. The most valuable lesson I learned was that while betrayal by those you love is devastating, betraying yourself is far worse. Staying in situations where you are not valued, accepting treatment that diminishes you, compromising your integrity to keep the peace, these are the real betrayals. Walking away, despite the cost, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, was an act of profound self-respect. My story is not unique. Many of us face moments where everything we believed about our lives and relationships is revealed as false. The question is not whether these moments will come, but who we will choose to be when they do. Will we choose comfort over truth, appearances over authenticity, or will we find the courage to walk away from what no longer serves us, to build something new from the ashes of what was lost? I hope my experience helps someone out there, facing their own moment of truth. Have you ever had to walk away from something or someone you thought was essential to your happiness, only to discover greater joy on the other side? Leave your story in the comments. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to what you truly need. Thank you for listening. And remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself.